Okay, well, welcome your body into a sitting position. So we're going to start couple blankets at the back, stacked up as high as your bolster, sitting on a bolster. Have your block in front of the bolster at the lowest setting. Voila. Place your right foot on the block with the leg turned out, and your opposite leg, if you got two, I think a block or a ball works good. I like the ball if my leg lowers down with ease. However, it's not easy for me, then I'm not going to lower my leg down to the ball. So the block is a little bit more, well, for sure, it's a little more firm, and this is more responsive. So you're the decider. All right, grab a belt. Okay, feel how this kind of a puzzle piece, you've got the lower body in this kind of circuitry like a basin, like the basket of the pelvis. See how this might support your back muscles. And then as you get a hold of your belt, you're going to hold it forward of the chest. And we're just starting out with just a little bit of kind of sketching the outline of our body before we do our deeper restoratives. So as you move your belt forward, you're going to move up. Okay, and I want you to take some rotation in your rib chamber here. So you're just going to try to sit up tall and rotate through the ribs to the right, but pull on the belt so you reinforce that rib cage and some of the back muscles. You might feel some lats, you might feel, regardless, you feel some resistance. Okay, whatever those muscles are. We'll call them sussels, side muscles. Okay, now come back center, and I want you to hold the belt overhead and lean to your left. Okay, so how this looks when you're sitting, your foot is on the block, you're leaning to the left, but you're trying to sit tall. Okay, so I've got my blocks to support me so I don't slump. And then as I come back center, I'm going to let my chin lift slightly, breathe in, and then lean to the right. Keep it real simple here. Okay, notice where the resistance is in sitting up high. Come back center. Okay, and then I want you to lean forward, but this time you're going to take your belt behind you. Hold the belt with the palms forward. Stretch your arms back so your shoulders feel the stretch and the chest. And then you only lean as far forward as you can realistically hinge at your hips, right? So you're not rounding your back like so, you're lifting out of the chest, good, and hinging at the hips to tilt forward. So taking a few moments here, just kind of outlining your kind of musculoskeletal experience. Okay, now feeling when the arms are fairly low. So I'm not trying to push them back high. I'm holding onto the belt, rolling my shoulders back, good. And then as I come back to finding my line and my spine, right, I'm going to let go of the belt, and I'm going to bring my hands to the bolster and shift back. So my right leg's going to come off of the right foot off the block, the left foot comes up. I'm going to move my block to the other right leg. I only have one, but my other side. So you can still put a ball under the right knee if that is something you like. This would be a classic pose where we might use sand, but I want us to just kind of see where we can kind of reinforce circulation in the spine. And then grab a hold of your belt and bring it back overhead. And then kind of feeling that rib rotunda, right? The ribs are the steering wheel of the body. Okay, but you're not going to steer it up like clockwise. You're just going to turn to your left, holding your belt, pull. Okay, and as you might notice the inner thigh circulation, you might not, sometimes you don't, and then flow through center to the second side, so just rotating. Okay, try to feel the sitting bone centered so you're not pulling your lower back muscles, you're finding your ribs movement. And then as you come back in center, okay, if you can, slide your hands way out on the belt, bring it overhead and back. That might not be a shoulder reality for you. And then hold on to the belt behind you, palms facing forwards. And as you reach forward, chest open. So we're just taking a few moments. And if you start a little bit late, like you're coming in a little bit late, remember you want to do each side. So it's a simple seated forward fold, right? My foot is on my block. My seat is on the bolster. My other leg is supported by a block, right? So everything has some elevation. And as you're in the elevation station, you're hinging at the hips. Good luck with that, right? As you get older, that becomes a little challenging, right? You start to push in your spine and maybe not as much flexibility in the hips. So try to hinge at them hips. Hinge at them hips. Okay. Now, as we kind of find that spine connection now, we're going to put the belt off to the side. We're going to slide our left foot off the block. And now we get to start on our restorative practice. Okay. So place your block right next to the bolster so the block is low setting. It's stuck next to the bolster now. And you're going to slide forward so your seat is on the block. And as you lower back in your chest opener, you want to make sure that if you're too close to the wall, that's no good. You have enough space that you might be able to stretch your legs straight down. But at first, I would say keep the knees bending. So you can use the leg parts to find the kind of the pathways, the rolling pathways in the body, the terrain. So when my feet are down, my knees are up, and then it guides down to my hips. And then the bolster and the block underneath my back body support that. It brings a bridge into my body, right? This is basically a bridge pose, isn't it? If you think about it, it's pretty much a bridge pose. So as I find where the tailbone is comfortable on that block, you can add a sandbag across the diaphragm, strengthening right here at the navel center. Some of us like the sand across the ribs. It's a little more efforting for your breathing muscles. And some of us prefer anything where we can help our hip flexors out. Anything, right? So the legs can eventually maybe extend down. Okay, now if you stretch them down and it feels a little uncomfortable in your back, bring the knees back up, feet down, and take your time to arrive. But as we arrive in this horizontal respiratory chest bonanza, you're going to let the arms stretch the chest open and feel the height of your neck. Do you want to have two blankets, or do you feel like you want to push back one and lower down so you have more neck extension? Okay, which is great to have, but if you don't feel comfortable when you close your eyes to get rid of one blanket, then you just leave it there for the time. As you breathe slow and arrive in that rib chamber. So feeling the movement of the breath in relationship to the ribs moving. And then feel that relationship of breathing muscles even higher up in the chest and the throat. Right, since it's all part of it. It's all part of the operating system. So in restoring, right, we're restoring, we're regenerating. So you can take the mind's focus to all these areas, just one area at a time where you notice you locate your breath moving it, which creates a vibration, right? Again, you can always come back to bending your knees. There's no have to go to a more challenging pose and then stay with it. And just cruising inwards and feeling the abdomen expand with your breath. Feeling the belly fill up like a balloon. So you have those two zones of interest for breathing. One is the belly movement, diaphragm, and the secondary respiratory muscles are the intercostals, so between each rib. Okay, and besides ribs, right, when we're in these kind of more vulnerable shapes with our belly up, right, the gut lymphatics, right, that's a whopping, a large amount of lymph focus in our gut. You can work with that motion, the resistance, the expansion. It's not pushed inwards. That's why it's good to wear comfy clothes, okay, for restoring. Nothing too restrictive. Just let the abdomen move with the breath. Let the lumbar lymph nodes, right, feel that flow. Right now it feels better for my knees to be up. I love the stretch of the hip flexors, but I also have to kind of feel the balance between muscle work and organ work. Right, in the long run, it's probably the organs I'm going to bring more focus to. As I age, right, the muscles, yeah, I want to feel pretty comfortable with them, but the joints, that's a big piece, but feeling that supply, the air supply in the core. Okay, let's take the last few moments here in horizontal chest opener. If you're in a modified pose, when we switch, we're going to be going into inversion. So we're using this back bend to kind of start to wake up the abdominal muscles because those are strengthened when we have the pelvis lifted, right? Okay. All right, now as we begin to move that sand away, I want you to kind of find where is that ball. I'm going to utilize that in a little bit. Where are your blocks? If everything's at the foot of your mat, you might end up kicking things around so they're all by the bolster sides, the short end, or behind you. And then if you have your belt, it's off to the side, but push back one of the blankets if you have a big stack still, and you've got one blanket under your head. Be protective of the neck. Some people like the blanket under their neck. I keep reminding myself just under my, right above my brainstem and behind, above is a good spot for my blanket so my neck can continue to work on extension versus rounding. And then I walk the feet in. I'm going to turn my feet out a little bit. So as I lift my hips, I'm just sliding back and I'm pushing the bolster down under the back of my pelvis. I went too far. Okay. You want to still almost feel a faint sense of that block. So I find that you want the back of your pelvis on that bolster, the tailbone at the edge. And then take some test lifts, right? You've got both feet up, pelvis arching. Okay, first things first. Feel the ribs slide back. Some of us that are short get kind of a good pose with the bolster. It might be a little bit more comfy for short people. So you might find, okay, got my tail at the end, pelvis centered, and I'm just going to let the legs flow up. Now you might get lucky and be able to get both to go up at the same time. That's kind of strong work, right? So, if you feel like, no, it's kind of achy for me, you bring one leg up and then the next, okay? So feeling how the levers elevate, they're usually below you. They're still below you, but you're upside down. And then take a moment, grab your belt, and I want you to feel the hinge at the hips, okay? So when I move my legs back a little bit, I'm hinging at my hips, just like when you do like a squat, right? When you push your rear back. So right now my bolster is my squat board. It's holding that. So as you bend your knees, you're going to scoop up the feet, not your knees, with your belt. And then you're going to push your feet out into a leg float. And I got this all discombobulated. Okay, so I like to have the belt, the tail of the belt, so on the side I can just pull it easily. I can easily maneuver it for basically the shape I'm in right now. If I feel like I can move my legs far out, great, right? If they're closer in, great. It's very interesting to feel how the knees respond to this. So let the leg float occur. The legs outwards, you can hold the belt, you can let it go. And then as the knees have a slight nano bend, you feel the tailbone centering. And if there's some weird feel in the sacroiliac joint, right? What you might do is you could do your legs up with just a blanket under your pelvis or something that's softer in the pelvis, maybe not always the bolster. Okay, this sometimes can be a lot. If you're having a good day in sacroiliac, it's fine, but not every day is always that way in that joint. So feeling the legs have that reach, we're focusing on the arch, basically the continuous squat pattern in the legs, right? The hips are back, the arms open, and actually try a sandbag on this one. It's going to take over the body on this. So sandbag from belly to heart. Of course, you're dropping back in an inversion. So this can be quite technically interesting, right? For the breathing supply, the air supply. Okay, so I've got my sand supporting my whole core. Okay, you got a sand baby here. Okay, arms are open. Arms slide down so they're no higher than the heart. And then taking this second restorative into bending the knees as much as you need to, relaxing your eyes, and just feeling the sensation, kind of, I like to call it sensation safari sometimes, that reverse flow from my legs, my calves, the back of the knees, all of that draining out, reversing the gravitational pull on my legs. Now, if the sand doesn't work for you, just get rid of it. Some people feel like, I kind of like it, it's different. Some of us just doesn't compute. Make sure the blanket is doing good for you. So if you want the blanket under your neck, you use it. If you don't, or you're going to try without, move it back. Try to feel that natural extension of the neck, of that upper spine, right? So the throat and the neck area doesn't feel tense. So if you kind of put your hands, just wrap them to the back of the neck and kind of just massage it a little bit, just a little bit of pushing and gliding. It should feel calm. Okay, and as you let the body brush off that holding in the feet, okay, because feet get pushed on and stepped on all the time, and right now they're not. Happy feet. A few more breaths. Okay, this might be a good one to bend your knees, reach up to the belt, pull on the belt, slide the feet together. Okay, you can still keep the sand on if you like. It's your vest. Okay, and then lower the left leg down and move the sand on top of it. Okay, it's already ready. The sand is all warmed up. Okay, slide it down to the top of the left thigh. Between the sector of you kind of feel thigh, hip. Okay. What area are we working with for bones? Hip and femur, right? Both. So you want to include them both together with the weight. Now you might have to move your leg a little out to the left if you feel like you just swing your foot out, like it rotates out and you can't get the whole leg to feel that awareness. Sometimes I'll just move my leg a little bit out if my foot just turns out. Okay, you're still going to have a little rotation with the leg, a little movement outwards. Hold the belt, and I would say make sure that loop is big enough if you're going to go into brain float. So the belt goes behind your head, not your neck. Okay. So my neck has a little more tone in it than when the last time I was brushing behind it because my head is supported, but it's not too much tone. So make sure that the loop is big enough and the knee is not turning out excessively. So foot straight up, brain float, head leans back in the belt, even if your head touches the blanket. And your arms opening out to the sides. And just breathe. Okay, so feeling if there's any motion sorting out that feels good to you, like pushing into the foot or purposely letting your head lower back more, loosening up the belt if that's necessary, or holding it. Some people hold on and try to get some motion, bending the knee a little bit. Some of us try the brain float and then we decide we want to come out of it, but still have the hamstring extension so we can bring our hands to the side of the skull, get a hold of the belt with the palms together, and reach back. And that can be really good, right? I like them both. I think for my sacroiliac, it feels good for a little brain float. It was kind of good and helpful. And then I think I like the arms reaching back too. So you get a little of both. Okay. So feeling that reach with the right leg, pushing the foot into the belt and pulling as well. Find that push and pull dynamic. Notice that kind of peculiar arch on the right side of the back, right? The right side, that area has a little bit of arch, and the left side, the front of the leg is trying to stretch straight down. Okay, now take a moment like to kind of measure, you want to have the same measurements on side two as much as you can. So just kind of noticing the feeling sensation here. And how is that left leg releasing down? Is the foot turned out of it? Mine is. So I'm going to try to rock on the heel, bring the foot more into center. Okay, and you want to match it as well as you can on side two. Yes, there's differences from A to B. That's normal, but you want to try to give it the same opportunity. So look how high up the leg is. So when you do switch sides, even though last time I had the brain float first, so my leg was a little further back. Okay, what I'm going to do first is take the sand off that left thigh, take away the hole in the belt, leg is up. Okay, and then switch the leg that's up in the belt. Okay, it might be refreshing to have both feet up, and you can just notice the difference from side A to B right there. The flushing. It does do something. It's good to know. And then it's good to feel it. And then switch sides. The right leg is down. And then taking your sand to the top of that right thigh. Again, any of these inversions you could do without the bolster, right? You could just be on your back on a blanket under your pelvis. If at any time you come to practice, it just feels too much. So as you grab a hold of the belt, remember the bottom leg might have some tinglies in it in the foot. The leg was upside down. Granted, now it's grounded. So it's going to feel maybe some circulation dynamics. Could be. So I'm going to try to keep the loop the same size, and just kind of see, does this side need more? Bigger loop, more range, or does it feel like it needs less? So I'm going to try to keep it even and see if I can cope with that. So try to feel where the foot pushes and your head leans back. Okay. Arms are open now. I have my sand on the right quad. And as the arms approach, resting downwards, I just feel, that kind of, I think of the top of that right thigh as a little bit of a resistor here. So it helps me to move my belly with my breath. I guess I don't know how else I'd move it. So when I'm motioning my abdomen, I'm trying to get that to settle so the right hip flexor also can be invited to lengthen, elongate, extend. And then feeling my head lean back into the belt and that circulation through the back line of the left leg. Many of us might find the upper leg part is easier than the lower leg part, the right leg, I mean. And it could be reversed for some of us, okay? It's going to be one or the other. And as you are lowering your head back, maybe you grab a hold of the belt, so you put your palms together and then push your thumbs, your thenar web space, so that webbing between thumb and index just pushes back and reaches the arms. Your head is on the blanket. And if you don't like either of those, you can hold the belt with both hands and just walk them up the belt. You can do that too. You have lots of options. Okay, so feeling where that reaches through the arm span, breathing, and just feeling where extension is in the back line of the leg. Okay, now with that reach of the leg part and the arms, it's a curious shoulder pose, especially if you're holding the belt. I think this is a pretty interesting one. If it's too much on your shoulders to go overhead or one shoulder, right? You can tighten it up. You can tighten up so you make the loop a little smaller, cinch it up. And that might be better if your hands are straight over your head versus behind your head. Sometimes this feels pretty good. Okay, those of us with the belt behind our head, we're going to slide it off. We're going to all join the handers, all of us with our hands in the belt. And then slide the sand off your right thigh. And reach for the belt with your right hand and bend the right leg. The right hand holds the belt, the right leg bends, and the left leg crosses over to the right. Okay, now keep the curves active, right? So from my hip, both hips, I definitely want the bottom leg to bend, the right leg. This is usually the mistake people have, is that the bottom leg, they shoot it down, straight down, and then the top leg is, there can be a lot of tingly, a lot of pressure in the IT band, so I want you to try to you're kind of rolling a bit on the hip. And then just change it. We'll work with the ball in a moment, so we'll get some interesting hip stuff influenced by the ball. So right foot in the belt now, cross the right leg over to the left. Bend the left knee. Okay. The bolster is an interesting touch into the side body. It's the back side, the kidney side, the QL that gets that little bit of touch. Okay. And each side you might have different habits. You might be bending the knee and pointing it up. You might be rolling on the hip, but now we got nothing to do but roll on the hip. Okay, so bend the right knee and bring the leg back center. Take the belt off and grab your ball and place it. It's got to be a soft ball. So if you got a tennis ball, don't put a tennis ball behind your knee. Okay, so the soft ball is behind the left knee, and I'm just going to circle. I'm going to keep both knees bending, so it's as if I had a ball to put behind my right knee, I probably would, but this one doesn't really require two. You'll find out how this is going to roll. So as we're rolling on the back of the pelvis, I like to do this where I put my right foot down so the knee still points up, but I circle in the hip going both directions. Do about 4 each direction at minimum. So I'm circling. Don't let the leg go down too far because it might be a lot for your hip flexor to get it back in, right? Okay, knee goes out. So it's moving out. If you have your right leg up, you can hold it. That's kind of nice to do. And then bring the knees back center and swap, put the ball behind the right knee. I can't quite do it without my hand. I've seen some people do some pretty neat tricks with this one, getting the ball behind the other knee without using your hand. I can't do it. So I want you just to explore the hip you're in. Or as you're moving around and rotating that leg, your opposite leg can be on, the foot can be on the floor, knee pointing up, and circle. Okay. And I imagine your hip works a little different from side A to B when you do this. Right, when I have the ball behind my other knee, my hip rotation was a little bit more active. And now on this side, where I got knee stuff, right, it's a little more frozen. So I think these are interesting exercises just to engage in the circuitry, the circuitry circus in the pelvis, meaning both knees can be up. It could be true this way for you. Might not need to have your foot down. Okay, now we're going to go make sure you went both directions. If you cut this side only one direction, get the other direction going. We're doing about a minute of this, so we're timing it, not so much how many. And then take the ball and place it between the knees. This is familiar now. Okay, so back of the pelvis on the bolster, knees go side to side. And I would start small, even if you're like quite the hip expert. Okay, if you feel like you're an expert of your hips, no one else should be, just you. Okay. If you're a hip expert or you feel like you have expertise in this one, try to get the knees going to the side, but include this waist stretching. This is the deal. Organs, posterior core muscles, back muscles, they need all the love they can get. So as you're moving side to side, and I like the blocks actually, as bumpers, but my other block is at the bottom, so I can't really. I like to have a block on the side sometimes, so I have a bumper so I don't go as farther down on one side than the other. That's my limit. But I'm not going that far down. Okay, so feel the knees go side to side. Feel the stretch at the back of the pelvis. Okay? And then bring your knees to your chest. Push the bolster away. And then once you're on the back of the pelvis without the bolster, push the bolster, push it, push it. It might have a block on the other side, but no big deal. Feet on the bolster. Okay. Land on the sacrum. So before you get engaged in lifting and lowering, I want you to get a feeling of back of the pelvis, tailbone, okay? Hands on the tops of the thighs. So my hands are going to push but lift up. So you might practice this kind of movement, right? This kind of wave. It's not slam into the thighs and have this resistance, right? It's help them move up and the femur move away. So you're pushing it, stretching through the front. Glutes are waking up here, okay? The glutes are awake. And then as I lower down, I just let my hands slide to the thigh lid. So inhale through the arch. Exhale, push into your feet, lift your hips up. Inhale, lower the pelvis down through the arch. Okay. Now we do both kind of arching and flexing on these patterns, right? It's not just particularly one, because you got to think of what's your leg doing, what's your hip doing, what's your spine. But instead of being an investigator about it, which is still okay to do, I want you to feel the touchdown of the body parts, right? That kind of seamless lowering down through the tailbone. So take a few more. Now, if you want to start to get into more range, you can bring your arms overhead as you lift up. Sometimes I usually do that, but right now I'm very curious about the hips here and the femur. So you decide if you want to push, find that resistance, right? It's going to be there, and then lower down. Bring your knees to your chest and take the ball, and you're going to roll it under the back of the pelvis, so it's at the tailbone-ish. And just move your hips side to side, wagging your tail. Have your feet step a little bit out on the bolster, so you're on the bolster, but you don't want to have the feet together. You want to be able to wag your tail. You could try with your feet together if it does that. It's not wrong, but I think if you have a wider stance with your feet, kind of like a wide squat, right? That same action in the bones. You're going to get a little bit more flexibility in the hip for this. So use the ball to help you with flexibility too. Rolling across. So I'm on sacrum, but I am rolling across to the glutes. Okay. Now, Come back to center. Make sure that ball is right around the back of the pelvis, sacrum area, back, base of the spine. Bring the right foot, the leg up, and you're going to cross the right foot over to the left knee. Okay, door number one is just put the left foot on the bolster so you feel like you can basically start balancing. Okay, knee points out on that right side. Yes, it does, but some of us, it doesn't go out very far, right? So just accept where it's at. This is door one. This is a good one for those of us that always bring the knees in, just to try beginner's mind here, just on this one. Something you can learn from it, I bet. And then as you bring the legs in towards the chest, you're going to hold the back of the left thigh, maybe. And it's sometimes good to just let your arms be out on the floor. Stretch them out wide and just let gravity have you and see how that works. If you get a pinch at the upper right thigh, like right in the hip flexor, if it pinches, I'd say hold the back of the left thigh. Because some people, this one's too vague. You know, they start kind of clutching at different fibers of the leg just to hold the shape. So clutching the back of the left thigh can be really helpful too. Or have the foot on the bolster, right? Knee out, let this stretch open. Okay, take a few more breaths here. You can rock a little bit on the ball, roll a little bit on it if you like, if it's soothing. Okay, and then let go of the back of that left thigh and switch sides. So right foot down and cross the left foot over with the right foot on the bolster. At least give it a chance. Give each side a chance to start with step one, or hip one, hip two. Okay, and the elbows by the sides, like your little T-Rex arms, can be helpful. And then you press to bring your legs in and hold the back of the right thigh. Yeah, these are great basic things to do that you've done before with all kinds of exercise. Classes do this, figure four, thread the needle, all kinds of names for it, hip opener, reclining pigeon. But when you're in the shape, it's okay to not always follow the same, right, the same formula. You don't have to hold the back of the thigh. You can have your arms open, you can have the leg kick up. You can also have your foot on the bolster, the right foot. Okay, so feel where the body weight is on the ball. Yeah, start to notice the ball a little bit. Okay, now as we lower down, if we're not already down on the bolster, okay, we're going to bring both feet to the bolster and push into our feet, lift the hips and move the ball to the right buttock, right? And you're going to move your hips side to side. So massaging into that right glute. We'll do just about, maybe about 30 seconds on each side. So as you're gliding on the right glute, sometimes it feels good to have the ball higher on the glute zone than other times, right? So if you're having some sacroiliac, low back, you might have the ball a little higher, okay? You're the decider, right? So if you want the ball to be a little bit lower, so it goes over to the glute border, right on the glute medius, right on to the joint, that feels good because it's where inflammation happens. It all hangs out there in the joint. So sometimes that rub can feel pretty good. Working tension out, warming it up. Okay. Now change sides. I would lower to your left buttock, grab the ball on the right side, and then move it over to the left. So you're not gripping your glutes to get the ball under. You're not contracting. You're going to just tuck it into the left rear and then let the knee swerve up and over to the left and then mount up on the ball. Yeah, sometimes it's too low. You have to kind of move it around. So make it work so it feels like, yep, that feels pretty good to massage into the glute. And if you're not sure, then you can always ask. We've got the ball, so it's pretty much right in the rear zone. Okay. It's not hitting the bones per se. I think that's the one thing about rolling, self-myofascial release. We're not trying to hit onto the bone, right? We're gliding in the fascia, well, the myofascia, right? The fascia of the muscle. So when I'm gliding across, it's like the softball is more restorative, right? It's best for arthritis, for osteoporosis. There's all different things you can talk. Lymphatic system. Softball is a little bit better for this work, that work, for that area, those areas. Just soothing. Okay. Now when you glide back to the right rear, let's take the bolster to the right side. Even if you're quite the flexible hipster, I would say do the basics, right? Do the basics. So right leg relaxes down, knee points out, okay? Left leg reaches to the bolster. Okay, now when I'm positioning my hip, I'm turned on my right hip, on the right hip on the bottom, right? That hip is turned too. So it's not a straight right leg. Even if you got a block down there, you can kick it aside. It's okay. You want to have the right leg bending and the ball at the back of the pelvis. And then add your sand on that outer left thigh. Okay, we were just above that with the ball rolling. So now we get to kind of organize the stretch from the back space to the side space. Okay. So sand up, it's the sand edition. Okay. The bolster is pretty important, right? So if it's not really helping you out, pull on the handle of the bolster and bring it a little bit up, or push and move it down. Sometimes you can kind of tease the hip a little bit with that and just kind of go, okay, a little bit down until it feels as if you're also stretching your abdominal muscles. Okay. And if it's hard to get the leg on the bolster, just put a block under it or a blanket. It always helps. Left arm open. You can bring your right hand to the left rib space to feel the breath, or just let it relax out on the floor. No big deal. But feeling that resistance in the core organs. You can let your head roll to the left. Make sure you have a blanket under your head for this one. And feel the shoulder rolling down and in on the left side. So if your left shoulder is, you're trying to push your arm as far out, also feel the combination of the muscle layer and the fibers of chest and then the mystery armpit, okay, which is pretty interesting to kind of feel the connection of chest to shoulder. And it could be tingly, it could be too much. Sometimes if the anything falls asleep in the arm, that's too much. You've got to lower down the arm. You got to bring it in. Sometimes that happens. So kind of feel how the nerve-rich tissue here is stretching. There's the last few moments here, just letting your breath, a currents move through the ribs, not just the belly. Ribs connect up to this arm area. That's why it's interesting. And the heart, right? The whole area up here opening. And then gently roll the back of your head. Take the sand off that left hip. And as you start to come around towards tailbone, knee points up. You got two of them, right? So you're going to push into your feet to move the pelvis back and center. Okay, and then grab the bolster. Now, you might do some windshield wiper right here. You might do a couple leg lifts and foot touch down. Sometimes this could be kind of interesting too. for just feeling the movement of the back of the pelvis, the walking movement of the pelvi, I think is really interesting. So I would give those things a try, especially if you never do them. In between sides, try different things out. Even if you've lived in your body a long time and know what it needs, right? Sometimes it's good to try other offerings, sometimes not. So you're going to roll on the left hip. The bottom hip is really essential to roll on to get the top leg to create that hip opener on the right hip. So you can't really underestimate the power of rotations, right, in the ribs. The ball, I think, is great at the back of the pelvis. Yeah, you choose. You might not like to use it. And then as you get that sand, kind of slug it into your side up on the body, get it close, get it touching, and then you're just going to push it to that outer right thigh. And the bulk of the sand, right, is going to be even on that hip too, because you do want to have that weight bearing on the hip. And then belly wise, there's that twist. It's kind of a little bit of a mystery area of turning, right? Because we want to be careful of our lower back muscles. We want to keep them in that nice arch. And that's why the legs bending is important. So if I have my legs straightening, it's not going to be a very good idea for my back. So I try to keep the curves going. The knees create curve and contour, bending. And then that enhances that lower back, just the right amount of arch. Now, we all have different stories about backs and, spine stuff. So you have to follow what you're advised to do too, right? Some of this doesn't resonate for everybody. So feel in your body as well. Let your right arm open. Heck, this might be an easier side for your chest and your shoulder. Okay, so if it's easier, bring the focus into the abdominals. Yeah, because that can generally be a mystery area of movement during our daytime. Because we're usually stepping on our feet, we always have something we're up to. But this area is getting a nice little massage right now, the abdominal organs. Feeling the abdomen move with your breath. And trying to feel both the front space of the belly, the side space of the abdominals, the sideominals, the sussels, side muscles, and the back. Where do you feel it the most with breath? Mostly for me in the front, but I'm definitely trying to bring energy and awareness to the side and the back, the kidneys. Yeah, deep breath isn't bad. I'm trying to focus on slow, steady, kind of low rider in the practice, and keeping that steady, that endurance through the practice with breathing, not trying to all of a sudden overwhelm my nervous system with the deepest breath. But you might feel that's helpful for you getting in towards the movement of the organs. But we'll find out in tummy time next. We'll find out what's going on in the belly, okay, in tummy time. So just take a few more moments here. Know if any of these shapes you want to stay in longer, you can. There's no pose police. Okay, now feel like mentally connect to that abdominal zone. Okay, it's twisted, it's rotated. So you're going to take the ball, the sandbag probably goes off first, then the ball. And then you're going to carefully roll. I would pull the bolster up to that left side so it's not in your way. And then bring your knees over to the left side and carefully roll to the left, push. And then as you come up, We're going to take our bolster straight on down into the belly. And then as we move, if you've got a wall, it's kind of nice to have your feet towards it, but it's an option. But you're going to want to have your belt around your back. Okay, I'm like, that's going to be weird, but we're going to try it. So, okay, if you need a blanket under your knees, add that. I do want you to have your blanket on the other side of your bolster. So just put the belt around your back like so, kind of around the rib area. And then as you lower down on the belly, you're going to extend into like an arch, like a back bend, like an up dog motion and coming down. Now, if you don't care for this pressure on your chest, you can always turn your bolster the other way horizontal so the chest doesn't have as much pressure. Some people, that's an issue, right? And you have to deal with that. So do that if you need to. Otherwise, you are pushing into the body. So I'm lowering down so I can bring my forehead on my blanket. So I'm going to use all of them. So my forehead is down. So my neck is flexing here. It's a little more flexing. Okay. Let the thighs separate so that your back can relax, right? So I don't want my legs together because it could cause more grip here, grip in the hip, but a little separation. Okay. So forehead is down. It's a nice idea to put your hands to the back because we're not going to put our sandbag there. That's a little bit too much stress, but it's nice to do, but hard on your own. So keep that, maybe do a little bit of movement with the skin on that lower back, kind of rustling like you're using your knuckles to massage it a little bit. Okay. Let it soften, brush it, and then grab your belt. Back brushing. We'll add that to class. That's going to be fun. Okay. So just kidding. So grab your belt and you're going to reach back, hold onto the belt, a little wider than shoulder width, or maybe closer in for some of us. And you're going to bring your arms back and up. My forehead is down on my blanket. Okay, just hold on, but your forehead down. Okay. Now, I don't know. Do you feel different on one arm than the other? You're even, your forehead's down, so it's pretty interesting. Okay, now relax your arms, let go of the belt, put it around your back, bring your elbows down to the floor in Sphinx pose, and lifting your head up in that natural arch. So my legs, I'm a little too close to the wall. I don't want to have to be trying to form my foot against the wall, it just touches it. Okay, so arching. Okay, now the hands are going to slide back, not pushing you up, but your hands reach back into locust. So I'm going to push into my feet. And I really like to use the wall on this or the feet on the floor. And you're going to push and you're going to lift your head up. Breathe. Baby back bends. Okay. Tummy time. Okay. Lower your hands down, forehead down, all the way. Just let your head relax. Let it go. And then grab your belt and pull shoulders back, squeeze them in towards the spine, reach back. Now, instead of trying to get your arms behind you and up towards the ceiling, I want you to stretch them behind you and down towards your feet. Of course, that's going to be a tiny amount of movement for most of us. Okay, wake up those shoulders. Okay. All right, now you're going to put the belt off to the side. Okay. And as you push into your hands, come up to table. Round your back into cat pose. Arch the back slowly into cow, arching cows. Okay, and then round the back. Push into your hands to bring your forehead to your bolster. My forehead touches down, my arms are reaching. This is basically a downward dog reach, isn't it? Okay, now you're going to turn your bolster and have your hands on the bolster so your arms are stretching. Okay, now those of us that feel like we want to go into down dog, this would be a good moment. Hands on the floor, toes under, lift the knees up. Now, if I'm at the wall, I can get my heels pretty high up to get my hips high to flush out the back, which is really good. The higher your heel, right, the more openness in your lower back. Okay, that's hard to do in the middle of the room, though, isn't it? So the wall makes it easy. Okay, now those of us with our knees down, which is fine, our hands on the bolster, arms reaching. Okay, now come down from downward dog. Downward dog comes down. Okay, and then pull the bolster in and set up for side sage. So you're going to lean into your left hip. And I want you to have, let's do a little rib roll out actually. So grab your blankets, stack them up so they're about the height of your bolster. Maybe those aren't as high. I always in side sage have my blanket stack a little higher lately. So if my neck is tight, I find this is better to have a little height. So block on the other side, sandbag. I'm going to keep my bolster down with the sand. So get your ball on the left rib cage. Lean into the ball. Actually, don't lean. Put all your weight on the ball. Thighs together. Okay. Sandbag's a good idea, and your bolster keeps it down from a teeter-totter. And then you're going to turn the chest open to the ceiling and roll. Okay. Now, just so you can see, you can keep your sand on your bolster. You're turning, and the ball isn't moving at all. I'm just pushing into it. I mean, it does roll, but it's not going across the bolster, anything fancy like that. Okay, take that rotation, good. So your arm, it can lift up, you can turn the chest open. You got it, Mimi, you got it. So keep the arm so the chest opens, the thighs rest together. And then as you roll to that left side, you're on the left side, take the ball out. Okay, make sure the left thigh is as close to the bolster as it can get. This is key. The right thigh stretches back so the ball is under the knee, inside of the knee. And then take your sand to that right hip. And then begin to move your wave of your muscles into this nice side stretch. Yeah, sometimes having no goal is good on this one. So I think having the idea of getting your side to reach is definitely helpful, but spend the energy on feeling the body parts that are touching the props, right? Feel the touch. Notice if there's an area that you're touching into, you can elongate more. Maybe first with the breath. Maybe second, you need to move the prop, right? So if you don't like how the ball is under your knee, you move the leg back. Or maybe you move the leg on top of the other leg today, okay? The bolster, you might have to move that too. You might have to climb up on it and kind of wiggle your ribs and just let the skin that you're in feel that satisfaction of shifting. And you can roll on the back of your head or keep it in more of a fixed shape. Just let that side extend. Breathing slow. The Sage Collection is what we're going into, the Sage Collection. Now when you begin to come out of this shape, I want us to just go into that sleeping sage pose. And you do not have to put sand on your back, unless it's easy for you. Cross your shoulder blades. So when you come out from this shape, take the sand off A, and then let that right thigh connect that right knee to your left foot. So I find when I roll to my left rib cage, I take the ball out. Door number one, I just bring my right thigh to rest to my left foot. So my right inside knee to the adductors, partially on my foot. Or I just bring my leg a little bit higher up. But the key would be to use the leg parts to help you swivel on the left hip. So as you turn, take your bolster, turn it up on top of the one blanket. Okay, you got one blanket under and then one blanket on top across the short end. You might have to get your hip really close here so it's more comforting for your core to stretch down and turn your head onto the right. So your left rib cage is down, your head turns to the right. Just resting your face. And just feel the back body expand and relax. And you'll notice your heartbeat on this side. Right, this is the side you're going to notice it. And if we start our practice with sage pose in the first half hour, usually you'll notice that a little bit more. You'll notice the pace, right? It's faster. It's a little bit different magnetism to the heart, but by now it might be a little more relaxed. You celebrate your big wins, right? Something like that is a win. Okay, now feel how the back line, the shoulders stream down from the spine. And when you slide your hands in, we're going to come up and come back into reclining cobbler's pose. So grab your block if it's on the other side. Turn so the spine is on a ramp. Okay, if you're like, I can't do spine ramps, it doesn't work for me, and there's a modification you want to do, you can find that right now. But and you can also push your bolster aside and be on the back on the floor and do this too. Some people like a little more challenging one. But I like to let the bolster support my curves in the back. The blocks are under the outer thigh, okay? And the knees point out. And sometimes the blocks, you have to kind of use them and just push them around so it feels like, got it. It's supporting my leg. You have to find the part of the bone that it feels comfortable with, don't you? Because the blocks are a little hard. So the arms are open and the shoulders are in the opposite direction, opening the collarbone, chest, throat. And if at any time the whole leg situation doesn't work for you, you can bring the knees to point up and rest back. The key is the upper frame right now. So if the leg parts are something that just doesn't feel they clash with the blocks, just point them up. Okay, now arms are resting down. So we're going to roll to the right, to the side sage on the right rib cage. And from this moment, right, it's like, how am I going to kind of get those tissues to stretch all the way from here to there? So I think that's really interesting with our limbs because we tend to overuse the limbs to get our body around in these poses. So it's always interesting to work with somebody who doesn't have amputee or paraplegic because they are working in a different way with the core. So just kind of think, okay, how much am I using my limbs to get myself there? Move your hips to the left and then roll on the rib cage. Let the ribs do the movement. The belly, the core, turn, and then pull the bolster down. Okay, you're not quite inside sage yet. You're almost there, but you're going to get the ball to your ribs, not one rib, your ribs. Legs in a fetal position. Okay, legs together, knees bending. Right arm on the floor. Turn, so in and opening. Roll in and open. Okay, so just feel the movement of the rib cage and that deep touch. You don't even have to move your arm. You could bring your right hand to hold your head, right, on the bottom arm, and just let the left arm move small movements here and just feel that deep touch into the ribs. That's enough for most of us, right? Holding our head up is kind of nice on this one. Okay. All right, now as you come up and stretch the left leg back, hip flexor extension, right? So I'm going to lower the ball, lower the leg on the ball. Then I lean into that right side. Pull the blankets in close enough so it's easy for you to slide your arm between the bolster and the blankets. Take a block on the other side of your blankets, okay? And then let your head lower down on the blankets. Okay. Now, the sandbag I think is really interesting for this one. Sometimes I'll extend into it minus the sand, and my sandbag's really close, so it'll be easy to get that. Just kind of feel right now where my range is, my hip. And then when I get my sand, I'm just going to slide it up and place it to that left hip. The animated sandbag, my sandworm. Okay, stay on. All right. Sometimes going from hip to ribs is better. Remember, if your knee is not liking this, you've got to back out of it. So if the knee is like starting to feel a little bit of ick, too much pull, inner knee, outer knee, any of it, then you bring the knees together. Okay, it's fetal position. So sometimes it'll happen. So you're on that side bone of the right hip. You can kind of feel that. Some of us need more padding under the hips, but sometimes you use 2 mats or a towel under your hip. That's good too. And then stretch the left arm overhead. Okay, this doesn't work for everybody. Some of us are circling in the ribs. Some of us have our hand on the bolster or on the side. So just take the time to feel the side body long. Okay, now lower down the sand, slide it away, and take that final twist into the sleeping sage pose. So we're going to feel where the hip space, right? This is always interesting because our hip are low back, and then the movement of it can also channel up into the ribs. So I roll into my bolster, okay, come up, take the left thigh so it rests to the right, and then you don't have to move your blankets around like you could have them both stacked up and put your bolster on top. They're your blankets, right? So you might decide, I can just have my blanket stacked under. I can have one across the top. You get to choose. When you're creating that rotation, hands besides the bolster. Okay, try that twisted up dog. If you can be in this for a few moments, it's interesting for your. Sometimes it feels pretty good. And then as I lower down, belly, sometimes it doesn't. So lower down, let your head turn to the left and let the arms relax open. Okay, just let the abdomen rest and the chest surrender. slide the hands in, push, and then with that rotation, we're going to come into a final spinal. Okay, so you're going to turn and grab your bolster and bring it to the wall. Now, if you're going to make a bolster bench, which is a variation with legs up, here's the bolster bench look. Okay, so you get your blocks under your bolster. And the key for this, though, is that you have your knees with something behind them, right? I don't have my legs like this, right? I see this all the time. You got to have the back of your knees supported so your back is supported in turn. So you want to get close to it. You don't have to get all the way next to the bolster and lay down. Now I'll show legs up the wall too, but you might have your head resting down on the blanket. Some people like to do this with the ball. This is a nice one, but so you avoid getting a Charlie horse. You want to have one foot on the floor, then lift the hips and put the ball under, and then the legs. I've seen plenty of leg spasms people have had. Now, legs up the wall. You can have your bolster next to the wall like that. Okay, you can have a blanket on top. I'm not a big fan of that, although my teacher does teach that a lot. So what I will try it today. I'll try it. So blanket there. Why not? You can always push it away. But it is a little different. Okay, if you're used to one regular pattern you do, it's kind of hard to change it up. So you're going to sit on the corner. If you have your sandbag and you swing the legs up, you're going to place your sand on your feet. But the further up you go, the more challenging that's going to be, right? If you have your legs up to get your sand up there. All right. So the key on this is it's a back bend, right? The nice thing about doing legs up the wall is that you get this true inversion, true effects and benefits of reversing all the way back to the heart and the brain. You can feel it, right? It does feel pretty interesting, especially when you're in it, and then when you get out of it, even better. Okay, so you decide blanket or no blanket. I bet you see this 50-50 in training manuals, without the blanket and then with. You see it all over the place. So what feels best for you is the best. So if it's padding under your head, that's great. If it's no padding, you might find that's really interesting for you in your connection to your neck. So you're not rounding your neck so much. So I like to feel the bone right above the brainstem. Feel that touch down the occipital. Okay, the suboccipitals are rounded below, but just feel that center of the back of the skull. To blanket or no blanket, either pose, you get to choose. And then find a little separation at the legs, like around the knees. And if you're up the wall, that might be tricky for you. You might have your knees really close together. So they have to be somewhat close together, with that sandbag on them, on the feet. Okay, so take some time as you reverse the flow back towards the heart and the lungs. To feel how your body breathes when it's upside down, right? When you're reversing, even if you just have the bolster under your calves, right? You're reversing the flow. So the ribs movement is a little challenged, right? There's a little more labor going on in there in the ribs. You can have a sandbag from heart to belly as well, if you don't have it on your feet or your shins. Just take a few more moments here, receiving your practice. You feel abdominally the expansion of the belly, And that kind of interesting side of being upside down, that glide back towards the the navel and then up towards the throat. Breathe through the nose. And then as you start to slide out of this pose, if your legs are up the wall, the first thing, and you can tell that resistance in your lungs just when you move your feet away and breathe, that weight training. Okay. You might just toss the sand overhead. Just be careful to not lock the knees. Sometimes you have to move it so you don't stress the knee. And then as you guide your knees towards your chest, if you're in the bolster bench category, bring one leg at a time in. Like when we did the legs up earlier, we tried to shoot both of them up at once. You'll notice bringing them in towards the chest. It's so much easier with both of them completely drawing in. And then we just roll to a side. And we roll, roll, roll. And then we come up. So take a seat on your bolster. If you have the bolster bench, I highly recommend you sit on it. It's kind of fun to sit on your bolster bench. You just have to trust the blocks. You might make a teeter-totter. And then as you find the line of circulation in the spine, right? Feel the back, feel the chin lift, feel that connection to the spinal column and the sitting bones out from the spine. And then let's lift our shoulders towards the ears as high as we can go. And then shoulders down. Stretch your ear towards the shoulder, stretch your neck, just tip your head over to one shoulder. And then to the other side, ear towards the shoulder. Come back center, hands to heart, breathe in together, breathing in wellness to yourself, to others. And exhale, bowing into the peace within your heart.